Hey y'all, welcome to Culture Cult. My name is Marie. I am the host of the show, and this is a show where we're trying to learn about every country in the world. That way we can all become less ignorant. So a little backstory real quick. If you don't know me, I grew up in Alabama. I grew up very, very ignorant. And it wasn't until I moved to Atlanta in high school that I met people from all over the world. And I realized I love learning about culture. And I seriously think our world can be healed and just be such a better place if we just sit down and learn about each other and just admit you're ignorant, which is what this podcast is about. Considering that the country we're talking about today, Guyana, I thought was Ghana. I'm sure it's been a mistake that most people make. So that's why I was like, let's cover Guyana. A, because I have a friend from there, and because this is a country that I think gets overlooked a lot, and it's beautiful and interesting, and people think it's in fucking Africa. But that's okay. You're here right now. You're going to learn. So today's episode is such a heartwarming episode. This is one you just want to put on and get cozy, because we have my Guyanese friend Kim, who's fucking hilarious, and then we have her mom. Oh my God, we have a mom episode. This is so special. It's a locals episode. It's a mom's episode. It's also an episode if you're a sucker for accents. She has an amazing accent. If you like Caribbean, kind of like British English accents, it's chef's kiss. So we're going to learn about her best tips to experience Guyana. And why did she even leave Guyana? Why did she feel like she needed to leave? And why did she move to America, somewhere so far away? She moved to New York of all places, which is so different. We learned about how Kim and her mom keep the Guyanese culture alive. And then at the very end, we're going to talk about creepy ghosts and myths from Guyana that still hold power on a lot of Guyanese people today. So if you're a sucker for a Caribbean accent and you want an episode that really just warms your heart, this is it. I hope y'all enjoy.
First of all, I just want to say thank you for coming on, both of y'all. This is so special to have two generations to talk about Guyana. Like, I think it's just really beautiful and unique because I haven't had this experience yet on the podcast. So we have two questions. Do y'all want to start off with a fun one or a deep one?
Let's do fun first. Break the ice.
Okay. If you were a cocktail or mocktail, what would you be? What represents your personality? If people tasted that, they'd be like, oh, that's Lindell. That's Kim.
Wow. Okay, for me, I would say I'm a mojito type of person. I like mojito, I'd say.
Mojito was a good one, but I think you're more of a margarita because you have a little bit of like a tartness to you. So mojitos are like sweet and minty, crisp, but I describe you more like, I feel like margarita is just like fun. You think of margarita, you're thinking of party, like lively, out there, bold.
I agree with that. That's true.
Yeah. Also, your shirt isn't giving mojito; it's giving margarita. Your shirt says "I'm fun." Okay, so my next question's a lot more deep, and I need you to be honest, and I need you to you can only answer in 2 words, and it has to be the first words that popped your head. Don't try to change it. It has to be the very first 2 words. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a deeper question.
Okay.
If you could summarize why your soul is here on Earth, what 2 words would you use, or 1 word?
Kick ass.
Oh my God, I love it.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Kick ass. Well,
You said whatever pop into your head first. Yes.
The first thing that popped into my head was laughter and love.
Oh, yeah. Kick ass is mine. I'm sorry.
I like that. Like, what does kick ass mean? Like, how is that like your soul's purpose?
Because I'm forever always trying to put things to right. So it's kind of like some people's asses need kicking. So yeah. For the people, the assholes of this world, I wish I could just like.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So kind of like a justice thing.
Yes, just get to some people who really messing things up in this world. So that's what I mean when I say kick ass.
Get people straight. Get
Straighten people out. Yes.
I love that. And then Kim, you were saying that your first words were laughter and fun. Like, what do you mean by that?
Like laughing. Honestly, love just came afterwards, probably because of the L. But really, laughter is like that was the first thing that popped into my mind.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think I'm funny. Like I like making people laugh, and I like humor and comedy.
Yeah, and you legit are a comedian. Like you could do it. Wanted to. My coach asked that question on one of her podcasts, and I was like, oh, that's a good one. It's just like,
that is a good question.
mine was to be curious. That was the first things that came in. So, because I'm always like asking fucking questions. I'm that person in the class where everyone wants to leave the class, and I'm like, hands up.
One last question.
I have a question. I'm very curious. And I also like learning about different people and cultures and blah, 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 like the whole freaking podcast. But I was always that kid where I was like, don't raise your hand. Participation was an A+. Okay, so let's get into our Guyana. First of all, how am I even saying it right? Like Guyana?
Guyana.
Okay.
So it's like Guyana.
People also say Guyana too.
Guyana.
Some people say Guyana, but it's not right. Yeah, it's Guyana.
But people in Guyana were saying that.
No,
Like actual Guyanese people. We noticed that when we were there. Like literally,
they're just saying to up. They're saying it to appease you. Trust me, not Guyana. Generation, or maybe they mix with too many Americans. Too many Americans come around and they start to adopt the American accent. Maybe so.
So in Guyana, where are you born? Like, where did you grow up there?
Georgetown, the capital city.
Yeah. It seems like everyone lives there. Like, does anyone live outside Georgetown besides like the natives?
Yes, there's a lot of people living in different parts of the country, yes.
Okay.
But it's more densely populated in the coastal cities and towns of the country.
Okay.
The jungle part of what we call the interior or the hinterland, that is very sparsely populated. There's still parts of it where there's not many people there, So.
Is that just because of the climate is so intense, being the jungle?
Yeah, it could be that too. It's very remote. The jungles are jungle. There's not much roads and whatever. You know what I mean? So if you live in that, there are people living there, but they live under very more natural type of environment. And a lot of the natives people, of course, live further in the jungle.
In your childhood and you growing up there, like, how would you just describe the colors, the sounds, the smells, like what comes to you? And you too, Kim, like when you visited.
Oh gosh, the sounds, the smells. Oh my gosh. One of the best things about growing up in Guyana was the smell of the rain after a hot day on the ground. So you would have the tar roads. The roads were tarred, just like, they are. And it's so blistering hot. Then you'd have these rainstorms. So it'll be sun and then the rain will start falling. It'll just gush down. And then the rain will fall for maybe 10, 15 minutes, stop. And then you'd smell that hot tar and the smell of it. Oh my gosh, I loved it. And for me, another thing is the sound, early morning sound. When you woke up in the morning, because sunrise very early there, I think 5 a.m. So you get up to go to school and everything. The sun is already up when you wake, right? Or the sun might wake you because it's so hot and bright. The early morning rooster, we call it falcock. They call it rooster here in America. When it starts to crow, that'll wake you up in the morning. I miss that sound. And then at night, I miss the sound of cricket, frogs, water frogs, because you'd hear them making a sound. I can't make the sound. I don't know how to make it, but you'd hear it at night. So you just hear that. You'd hear the sound of the crickets, the sound of the frogs at night when you're walking down the street or whatever. That's what you would hear.
What kind of colors are coming to mind?
When I see colors, green. Everything was green and lush. Everything is green.
There's like a lot of colors, I think, in the paints too. Like the houses are all really brightly colored, brightly painted. Not like here.
That's true. I think comes from the Indians. The Indians are the ones that like bright colors.
I find like a lot of places outside of the U.S. have
colorful
color in architecture.
Yeah. Except for Florida. That place is orange, green, blue.
Florida's a different, entirely different place.
Yeah. every country in the Caribbean is represented in Florida. So, of course,
Right.
that's going to be expected,
100.
you know?
I know Guyana is more Caribbean feeling, than South American feeling, right? It has
Oh,
a
yeah.
Caribbean feeling.
Yes. Guyana is definitely Caribbean or West Indian because
West
we're not
Indian.
really part of the Caribbean simply because culturally we're part, but geographically we're South American. So
Mhm.
what the British did, because they were the final colonizers, they call us West Indian,
Mm.
parts of the West Indies to make us part of their territory. So culturally, we are like the Caribbean. We are part
Mhm.
of the Caribbean. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's so interesting because people wouldn't think that if they were just looking on the map. It's next to Venezuela.
Right.
You're like, oh, it's probably very Latin or very,
Right.
know?
Right. But it's not it's very British
so
because it was a British colony, very
Mhm.
British.
So British.
The way we
It's so
speak, the buildings, everything, very British.
Mm.
And then Indian, because a larger percent of the population is Indian. So you see a lot of Indians there too. A lot of people don't know of Guyana. They're now getting to know of
Mhm.
Guyana. So the only thing they know West Caribbean or West Indian is Jamaica,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So they say, well, you're not Jamaica, but okay, are you from Jamaica? No, I am not. Jamaica's not the only Caribbean country in the world. They hear an accent.
Yes.
I think they only know Jamaica. The first thing they ask is, are you Jamaican? It just gets everybody from the other parts of the world, of that region, so irritated. We're like, you know what, really? You treating us like we're chopped liver or something.
Yeah. With Georgetown, I know the Stabroek Market. I feel like I'm saying that wrong. Stabroek?
No, you
Right.
actually, you saying it, we say it wrong. We mispronounce it in Guyana. We say Stabroek. But I met a Guyanese woman married to a Dutch man,
Mm-hmm.
and he was the one that was telling us that the way we mispronounce a lot of the Dutch word names, we mispronounce and we Englishify them. We put an English pronunciation on Dutch words. I had never known that, but it was nice to hear him tell us some of the words that we
Oh.
mispronounced.
Well, how does he
Correct.
pronounce it?
Stabrak or something like that, he
Stabroek.
said.
Oh,
Here's how I see
Yeah.
it. It's a colonizing language. We're going to do what we want to do with it, period.
Exactly.
Like,
Exactly, right? Because,
Don't
right?
you get mad.
Yeah, the Dutch were there before the British, and then when they chopped up the world after they were fighting too much, and they decided, well, okay, we're gonna have to, okay, fine, let's agree who gets what.
yes.
And when they chopped up the world, the British ended up with Guyana. Suriname is Dutch, and then there's French Guyana next to Suriname. So there's Venezuela.
Mhm.
Then there is Guyana, then there's Suriname, then there's French Guyana. That's all on the northern coast of South America.
If someone's listening and they're like, okay, I want to go to Guyana, like, how would you describe a perfect day for them in like Georgetown? Like, what would you tell them to
In
do?
Georgetown? Okay, a perfect day in Georgetown. Well, I don't say there's much to do in Georgetown other than the usual things that you would do here in the States. But say go to visit the interior, go to Kite Falls to visit Guyana. Georgetown would be a stop, your layover spot. You get your hotel in Georgetown, you stay in the hotel, and then you take your small plane. If you're not scared of flying on the small plane
Me.
or a helicopter, take a small plane and go and see the falls, the
Wow.
Kite Falls or in Duke Falls. If you go during Easter, you got to go to Bartica, take one of the speedboats and go across the river to Bartica and watch the regatta. So it depends on what time of year you go to. I can tell you different things that you could do,
Okay.
different parts of the country. Yeah.
I am picking up on that Guyana is an adventurer's destination
I
because
think
everything
so.
you just said low-key scared me. Like the little
Yeah.
plane. The little
Really?
plane.
Was terrifying. Like, I'm not even gonna lie. No,
did
the
it? You
small
did it.
plane, that was scary.
was
It was
awesome.
scary. It was
Yeah,
one of those things. It was
yeah.
one of those moments where we're like, this could be it. Like, this could be the end of our lives right here, right now. It was also the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life.
Mm.
So it's like,
Wow.
if this is the end, then like it could be worse. Like there are worse ways to go than like flying over this jungle and the
Well,
most gorgeous waterfalls.
but
But it was
scary.
scary. I'm not even gonna lie.
Yeah, Jasmine was petrified. We had to hold her hand. Kimberly
Oh
had to
yeah,
hold
she
her
was
hand
like
all the way through the
sweating.
flight.
She was so scared. She was
She
scared
was
to take a
almost
commercial
crying.
flight, much
Yeah.
less a small plane. She really conquered her fears on that trip. That's
Good
true.
for her.
She
Yeah.
did. She was so scared. We were all scared, but like she was like having real anxiety. So we were all trying to like compose ourselves so she wouldn't freak out. But we were all terrified.
Hey everyone, my name is Alexandria and I run a food blog called The Foreign Fork where I'm cooking one meal from every country in the world. You might remember me from the Culture Cult episode titled Travel Story Getting Cancelled by All of Australia, and that is a true story worth listening to if you haven't heard it yet. So if you haven't, go check out that episode. Today's Culture Cult episode is on Guyana, and so I'm very excited to talk about that because I wanted to tell you about my experience cooking one of the most popular Guyanese dishes for my blog. When I was cooking Guyana, I did a lot of research beforehand, and all of my research kept pointing me in one direction, which was to make pepper pot. Pepper pot is a Guyanese dish that is the pride and joy of the country. It's made by cooking a combination of beef and pork together with a really unique Guyanese ingredient called kasreep. Kasreep is this thick brown sauce, and it's made from cassava. The kind of cassava that's used to make kasreep is really bitter, and without being processed, it actually contains cyanide. The cassava is grated, and then the juices are squeezed out of it, which are then boiled with sugar, and the resulting product is this really thick, molassesy textured sauce that is this deep black color. And the color really threw me off at first, but it does make for a delicious flavor in the stew. I bought my kasreep from Amazon, which was the only place I was able to find it, but you can also find YouTube videos on how to make it at home if you're willing to risk the cyanide. Once you have your kasreep, it's time to get started. So to actually make the pepper pot, beef and pork are stewed together for a few hours in a pot alongside spicy peppers, cinnamon sticks, cloves, thyme, onion, garlic, celery, orange peels, kasreep, and more. Now, here's the thing that I really am excited to tell you about pepper pot, which is that it has a super unique quality because it's best when eaten a few days after making it. And the kasreep that's in the pepper pot acts as a natural preservative for the stew, meaning that you can continue to eat it long after a normal stew would have gone bad. So it's actually very common to leave the stew on the stove at room temperature for up to 2 weeks at a time. And all you need to do every day is reheat it to a boil for a few minutes every day to make sure that it stays good. Isn't that crazy? Pepper pot is a national dish for Guyana, and it was so fun to experiment with it and make it at home. I'm not an expert on Guyanese cuisine, but I did have so much fun learning about this unique dish. You can find my recipe on foreignfork.com or follow me at The Foreign Fork on Instagram or TikTok to see what other recipes I experiment with from around the world. Put some culture in your kitchen this week.
I was not scared. I don't know. How come I raise children scared of stuff like that? I don't know. I was having a
We
blast.
were all like, ooh. When we landed, we like, we like landed, we got off the plane. We're like, so that was, and we're like, yeah, terrifying. Yes. Okay, great. It was just me.
That is such chickens, man.
It
Oh my
was cool
God.
though. That's like, I would highly recommend that. I
Okay.
feel like the best time to go to Georgetown and visit would be during like a holiday
Okay.
or a fete.
Like a
Yeah.
festival.
Yeah,
I think that would be
because yeah. Other than that, because it's boring. It'd be boring. It's just going to another town that has
Yeah.
nothing much going on.
yeah.
You just, if you like food, then you could go at any time because you're gonna love the
Yeah.
food there. Yeah, you know what I mean. So it
When
depends
there's
on your
celebrations and
personality.
stuff, it definitely has like a huge different energy. People are like
Yes.
dancing in the streets and all of that. Like you really get that
But
like
it's fun when it's
Caribbean.
Republican.
That's when you
Yeah,
get the Caribbean vibes
yeah,
during a holiday. But I
yeah.
feel like during the day to day, it's definitely a little bit more buttoned up.
That's a good tip. Okay, go to Georgetown for the festivals specifically. Otherwise, use it as a pit
Yeah.
stop. And
Yeah.
again, like the food it's got to be incredible because you're getting like Chinese, Indian, African, like
Yes.
Caribbean.
Yes.
Different.
I
Yes.
think, I mean, I know I'm biased, obviously, because it's food for me, but I do think it really is some of the best in the world simply because of that fusion aspect. I can't really, the only other place I can think of that has so many different cultures, like in its history, would be Malaysia, where they have like 3 huge dominant like cultural racial groups. So most countries are very homogenous. And so while their food is really good, it's just like, it's just Korean food. There's no, you know what I mean? It really makes Guyana very unique.
Yeah, I would say that is y'all's unique touch, is that a true melting pot. Like they call America a melting pot, which it is, but Guyana is such a smaller country. I feel like it's very prevalent how much of a melting pot it is between all the cultures and how y'all all exist together. And you have all the different religions. And I hear that y'all celebrate each other's religions through the festivals. Like y'all all join a party, no matter who's party.
Well, we do. Right. It's right. It's strange here in America that you only have Christian holidays. We have Muslim holidays, Hindu holidays, and Christian holidays. Right? Because those are the 3. And Native Amerindian holidays. Right? So the natives we call Amerindian. So you've got all the 4 major holidays, and they're literally on the calendar as a holiday. You get the day off for Diwali or for Christmas or for Easter. And then you have the country, the holidays that make everybody one. So you'll have Mashramani, which is were celebrated when we became a republic, right? So that's for everybody in the country. You've got Carnival is for the independence, when we became independent of Britain. So we had our independence, then we have our republic. So we have those 2 things that are strictly for everybody. And then you've got all the other holidays.
Wow.
That's religious holidays.
Yeah, America wouldn't do that because they want us to work.
That's all it is.
And like they'd be like, you can't take off that much work. You get Christmas.
Yeah.
That's it. If you're lucky.
You're lucky.
And they just celebrated August 1st, Emancipation Day.
Wow.
And that's when the slaves were emancipated. And that was August 1st.
What a day.
And that's a big one, too. It's massive. And everybody celebrated it.
Everyone. Everyone wears their like African clothes, like you see in white people, black people. Everybody's wearing African clothes.
Right. The Indians wear the African clothes, the blacks wear. And then when it's Diwali, the blacks will wear the African clothes, or Pagua. Everybody in the streets throwing the Pagua powder on one another, and water and playing and stuff. And so, so we just celebrate together.
See, I think a lot of countries should look to y'all for that example. That like, don't just look at the differences. Like, how can we just like, we all like food, we all like to party, we all like good times. Like, we all bring something special to the table.
It's like, that's people, that's humanity. We all do the same thing, which is make food and take the day off work and, drink. Like, that's
cool. That's what makes us human. And I'll tell you what, the best, if you want to go to a wedding, to an Indian wedding in Guyana.
Yes.
On my list.
My word, girl. 7 days they party and celebrate. Food like crazy. Oh my gosh, I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Oh, going to an Indian wedding? These are some elaborate people. I know they say Black people are elaborate or Africans are elaborate. You can't compare to those Indians when they have a wedding. They go crazy, man. It's nice though.
Oops. Okay. Sorry. The mic cut. The most important conversation part of the conversation. I really hate the mic cut right here because she was really going in detail about why so many people from Guyana leave Guyana and why so many of them end up living in New York. But of course, the mic cut exactly when she was talking and I didn't notice. And then I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't record any of that. So we had to jump off Zoom and start again. And so we're only going to get the tail end of it. But it was such an eye-opening conversation, and I'm not going to sit here and try to explain it to y'all because me and politics, and I don't want to be responsible for that. But I did, look up some statistics about why Kim's mom was not the only person that left Guyana. So here's a quote. It says, over 1 million Guyanese citizens now live in global metropolises like New York City, where they are the 5th largest immigrant group in New York. They also live in London and Toronto, while the country itself has a population of around 760. Whoa. oh God, I really struggle with numbers. 760,000. Oh my God, guys, that's not a lot of people. Wait, that's like less than the city of Atlanta. That's crazy. In other words, Guyana is one where people live outside its borders more than within it. In 2015, Guyana celebrated its 50th anniversary of independence from the British. The last 5 decades, however, have been defined by extraordinary exodus of its citizens. In fact, this small country has one of the highest immigration rates. And then I tried to look up, why. And I'm just assuming, with anything with colonization, like you have when a colonial power like just pulls out, the country's just not prepared. I mean, how can you prepare for that? Like your whole structure has been based off a country that doesn't even live there, and that rules you and makes all your economy work. So in short, there was a lot of political corruption and instability. And then what happens, everyone wants to live a better life. So they leave for job opportunities. And then if they do end up becoming doctors, lawyers, like essential roles in society, they don't go back to Guyana. They stay abroad, so which that creates a quote brain drain where anyone educated leaves so they can get a higher education, more money, and it leaves Guyana less educated and just not really moving forward. So with that said, it really wasn't easy for Kim's mom to move from New York and leave her culture behind.
So America, so the people started to leave. So the more educated you were, the easier it is for you to go, because then America was offering great jobs and stuff like that and opportunities. And you want to be strong with your political leaders and everything, but when you're hungry and there's no food or whatever, you can't fight that fight. So
Wow.
and so a lot of people, started to leave and come out to America.
How was that integration for you moving to New York? That's such a different city.
It was horrible.
Really? Okay. Yeah.
I hated it. I hated America, but you worked, you did what you have to do because you had no choice.
Mm-hmm.
I did not like America for years. I only started to like America and have some kind of hope when Barack Obama went into power.
Wow. So that's really recent.
30-year difference.
No, it started out that way.
Yep.
And they grew to like certain aspects of life in America.
Mm-hmm.
So you had varying feelings about America. Because when you grew up in and you know the politics and so on, and you watch it and you see it happening over them, you're angry because, you made me leave my beautiful home. Right. So you had that amount of things. So you get involved. I get involved in the politics. I voted, blah, 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 blah. And, I had a family, so you have a life and you get accustomed to living here, but it's not where your heart is because you're not really quite belonging. You're on the outside looking in all the time. Your whole life is spent on the outside looking in because you're not quite American.
Mm-hmm.
As a Black person, you've got to face racism. You've got to face sexism. You're facing everything, right?
Wow.
So it's hard. But, you have children now, you have a family, you've got to make sure you raise them well, whatever. So America now starts to grow on you because you begin to accept and acknowledge there are good things about America. And for me, I was kind of glad that I came to America. I have no regrets now, but back then I did. Because I kept saying, my life would be so much better if I stayed, And then, but now I've seen there's certain things that I know I could not do back there because that still was a somewhat misogynistic, chauvinistic, restrictive society. It still is to some degree. So, but me being the type of person that I am, I think leaving Guyana now that I know better, leaving Guyana was better for me.
Wow.
Because I remember I tell you.
Kick ass.
Kick ass, right. My person, and I got that from my mother. So I just could not conform. I would not be, and because of the misogyny, the chauvinism, I think that's probably why I am glad. Now that I am at this age, I am very happy that I left Guyana. Doesn't mean that I don't love Guyana and I wouldn't go back and I wouldn't spend time. I go. As a matter of fact, I'm going there I'm leaving here at 6 o'clock to go to Guyana.
Wow.
I'm leaving at 3:30. I'm leaving at 3:30 to take a flight to go to New York, and then I'm in Guyana tomorrow night.
Tickets.
So,
She's got her tickets booked.
I know, and I
This
was
is not
there.
funny.
I was there this year for Easter. So
love
yeah,
that.
I mean that's still home. You know how you still. I don't care where you go in the world, you always will want to be. You love home,
Yes.
and that's how I feel about it. Yeah, you love home, but home has its flaws. Christmas time, you find your way back home every Christmas, right? Or you
That's
make sure
true.
you call your parents, right? Because why? They're still your parents. You still love them. You love because they made you who you are. Guyana made me who I am. Guyana made me strong because Guyana, being raised in Guyana, yes, it's got a negative, but being raised, I am very, very glad I was raised in Guyana because it made me strong for America. It made me able to handle America, handle the racism and not let it drive me crazy. You know what I mean? Handle all these things and navigate through this crazy society called America. Because America ain't easy,
No.
you know?
Beautifully, beautifully said. And like, yeah, the racism element up too. I'm wondering, now we don't have to get too deep in this, but like in Guyana, did you even like feel black? You're like, no, I'm just Guyanese. Like, and in America, the
Exactly.
minute you get here, they're like,
Yeah,
no, you're
no.
African American.
And that's the and that is what, that just struck
Yeah.
me. And because I spent more years here than I spent there, it saddens me to know, I think, race. Because America put that in my brain. In Guyana, let's say, for example, simple example, and I know you don't want to make this all about race, right? But in Guyana, if I heard this person committed a crime, it didn't matter who it was a horrible person committing a crime. In America, when I heard a person committed a crime, the person's face was plastered on television as he was an animal, whatever, if he were Black. And when white people committed crimes, because they commit crimes just as much, everybody commits crimes. It was not, you didn't hear about the white crimes, you heard about the Black crimes. So then you were slowly, quietly indoctrinated to think that Black people were horrible, criminals, welfare cheats, whatever, all the negative things, until you spend, because I come in first having this an opinion that Guyanese people, we're so much better than Black Americans because we just not like them. Because that's the way we were told and taught to believe. It was all, and then as you spend, it was all like pre-planned and preordained. It's amazing how it was done. So when you spend more time here in America now, you really get to understand the history, because I started to read American history and I get to understand it. I was like, oh, wow. And then I changed my opinion of Black Americans. Instead of thinking we were better than them and whatever, I was like, oh, they were the most awesome people in this planet. Because how on earth did you survive what you've been through and thrive? That means you are more awesome than anybody else, because you have been put with so much stuff against you. And look at you now. Everybody's got your name and your talk, your music, your everything on their tongue.
Yeah.
So that's, you know what I mean? Think about, if you think about it, right?
Yeah.
So that's why when I say I don't regret now, instead of being fretting and fussing about, oh, I hate Guyana, I hate America, I am happy I'm here.
Yeah.
Because I would not have known all of these things had I not lived in America. And then I would come off the subject of race, why I say I didn't believe in, I wasn't angry after Barack Obama, because a lot of my pain and anger and hurt and whatever was because of racism, because of how I felt always an outsider in this country, right? And I couldn't go back to Guyana because Guyana spent like almost 25 years of suffering in terms financial economic hardship. And so you couldn't go back to that. I didn't want to go back to that, right? So after Barack Obama's presidency, I felt like, oh, okay, maybe there is hope for us as Black people, because this hardship has got to stop. But then it didn't really change much, but it gave me hope.
You got a good 8 years, right?
Yeah.
It was nice. It was
was a
nice
little
while it
glimpse.
lasted.
It was a glimpse.
Yeah.
It was,
Like,
and
wow.
then
it
it
was
turned the
so-
opposite. It went crazy. And it's like,
Yeah.
wow.
Well, now that like you've been here, and I know really understand now how important Guyana is to you. How are you
Mhm.
passing it on to Kim and your children? Like, how do you keep it in their day to day to make sure that they keep it in their spirit?
Well, the food, I cooked Guyanese food all the time. Even though when they were younger, they didn't want to eat it.
Yeah.
And they were like, kids are
No,
like
just
that.
because it was the same.
Older.
It was more of that. It was just the same. Nobody
Yeah,
wants to eat the same
thing.
what they're used
Right.
to at home. Like it's like, oh, curry
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
Right?
Or like my friends would come over and be like,
Wow.
curry.
Yeah.
Can we have spaghetti?
But the thing, not only that, you walk into my space, there was a map of Guyana and a flag of Guyana at the front door. So
I
yes,
love
there's
that.
Guyana, right?
Oh, yeah.
You gonna know.
And the music. That's what I play all the time. I play the West Indian music, reggae, soca, calypso,
Yeah.
whatever. Every Sunday morning we would put on the West Indian music.
Yeah.
So they heard all the music, and then the way I speak, very Guyanese with them. I'm part of a Guyanese Association of Georgia, and I took them around those Guyanese people. So that's how you kind of keep the culture going.
Yeah, I think that you guys did a really good job of that. On honestly, sometimes I think even too good of a job because it was somewhat alienating growing up. Like when I tell you, like the house that I walked into it was not in America anymore. Like the second you cross that door, the American mask that we wear with our friends, like that's gone. Like we're not in America anymore. Like this is not an American household. Like we were not raised as American children, I don't think, in my opinion. Now,
Yeah.
but of course, her opinion, she thinks like we got off the hook with everything. We got rid of stuff that wouldn't fly back home, fly for us. But for us, compared to our friends, like it was very strict. It was very Guyanese. It was very different. I didn't feel like there wasn't even an option for us to lose that culture. Like there wasn't a choice.
Yeah.
It's just who we were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then how are you passing it down to like either like your boyfriend or like I guess with your blog, and then like how are you passing it around?
I just try to hold on to it as much as I can. I'm trying to like learn some of the food recipes. I feel like food is like the best way. I try to talk about Guyana as much as I can. Like I can very clearly try to make that part of my identity. I feel like, especially, just being Black in America, we're so lucky to even have that. Like most people just don't
know where they come from
at all. They don't have anything. So I try to like just be grateful for that. And I talk about it. I mean, I feel like people are really fascinated by it because they probably never heard of it. They maybe have met one person from there, maybe.
They think it's
whatever.
Ghana.
So I love talking about it. Like everybody is always so curious. I'm always, and I'm always talking about Guyana. All the time. Like as much as I can put it in a conversation, I just like this to keep it alive, with like my niece and my nephews. We try to push on them to make sure that they know, like, this is a part of them. This is half of who they are. And I feel like we rely more on like that oral history and stuff. And I found myself even just using some of the phrases too.
Yes, that's important.
Like I sound like my mom. I literally sound like my mother. I use some of the phrases.
Like what's a phrase?
Oh man.
You want a real Guyanese phrase?
Yes, please. I love the phrase.
In what context? Give me a context and I will give you.
Let's say you're angry with Kim. What you gonna say?
Get on my damn nerves and don't make me a guest of the government today. Don't make me a guest of the government today. You know what that means?
What is that? Don't make me a guest of the government?
Like going to jail.
I'm in jail.
It's a threat. Every Guyanese phrase is a threat. It's just threatening violence. Like that is crazy. I sometimes say like we're gonna me and you gonna go up the road.
Go up the
Yeah,
road.
when
That was something that
yeah,
they used to throw in us.
yeah. Which means I'm gonna beat you along behind.
Yeah, like we're gonna take it
Yeah,
outside
you
like
know,
that.
we
Like
take
we're
it
gonna go up the
outside,
road.
we fighting.
I use that all the time.
I'm gonna
now.
use
It's
that.
funny,
I'm
and
gonna
I
use
like
that.
to use it.
So if you're using this, Marie, you have to do it with the right accent.
Okay, I heard.
You get on my nerves. Me, you gonna go up the road today. Me, you gonna go up the road today.
Me and you going to go up the road today. I can't do it.
Okay, you're too damn fast. Mind your damn business.
Oh,
You're too damn fast. What you want to know that for? You're too damn fast.
you're too damn fast.
It's to do with nosy, but you're nosy. You mind your own business.
I actually sometimes like you do Guyanese like when I scold jokes sometimes because like this was drilled into my head since I was a child. If you can't wake up when the morning
Yes.
comes, then you can't go out and party in the night. Right?
Mhm.
So you cannot, shirk your responsibilities because you have to wake up more in the morning because you're hungover from partying last night. You're waking up. There are things that need to be done on Sunday morning. There are things that need to be done Saturday morning. Just because you went out Friday night doesn't mean that you sleep in on Saturday morning and don't do what you're supposed to do.
That was one of the things my mother said. If you want to go party, you got to get up in the morning. And my mother, here's what my mother used to do. So we go party. She said, we'd ask her, when I started to party, I was 11, okay? I used to go to night parties, okay? But it's a different culture. It's a different time. I went with my older brother, my older sister, right? And high school starts at 11. So it's very different. So we'd go and I go. We finished high school at 15 or 16.
Holy
So
shit.
it's very different. Exactly. And you started in the workplace at 16.
Oh my God.
So we would go party and hanging out. And then 5 o'clock in the morning, you hear the fall cock and you turn over and you get in another sleep. And my mother burst in the door. And my mother is very dramatic. I am like my mother. Burst in the door. Get up, get up, get up. I got work to do. You got work to do. You got chores. Go get your chores done. Get your chores done. We got in late. We got in like midnight or 2 o'clock in the morning. We got in late. We went home. What? I don't care. I don't care. You got work to do. You can't go party in the night and get up in the morning. Then don't go party in the night.
But she's speaking truth.
It's true.
That's a responsibility thing. Like if you're going to make that choice, you're still going to get your ass up. Period.
Exactly. Right. And that's how she was trying to teach her. So I passed that on to my children.
And I still do it. So you asked how I keep it up in my relationship. That's it. I do.
Yeah.
And the accent and everything too.
Yeah. I think my last section, especially since you have a flight to your homeland, I want to make sure I don't get you late. But I do want to do our cryptids and myths. So I'm going to name out a few. If you're like, I didn't know that, it's totally fine. I'm going to go back and record who these people are. Cryptids and myths I found from Guyana. Do you know about the old hag?
No, dear. Old hag.
Oh, she said, no, dear.
Old hag. Oh, girl, yes.
Okay.
Old hag. Okay, I'm proud of you. You got it right. You got it. You heard. Old hag. Old hag.
Old hag.
I'm going to equate it to what you know here in America. Old hag is an old woman who, during the day, just looks like an old woman. At night, she sheds her skin, right? She stores it in a little tin cup, a container called a goobie.
Okay.
She puts her skin in the goobie, and then she slips through, she kind of like vaporizes and comes through the keyhole of your house.
What?
Gets in the house, into the bedroom where your new baby is laying, and sucks the blood of the baby. So that's like a vampire,
Like a
kind of.
vampire, old woman.
But vampires
It's a-
don't go through
right.
keyholes. Like you can't protect yourself.
Right, but that's why I say it's similar because you got vampire, Dracula comes, he sucks your blood. That's as far as you can get. He's a person that sucks the blood, right?
That's like romantic.
Old high at night, that's what she does. During the day, but no,
She takes off
Like-
her skin and puts it in a cup.
Like,
That's
just
disgusting.
everything in a goofy, just every single supernatural thing is all in one. Like
That's actually terrifying. Like put your skin back on. That's disgusting.
the Guyanese way, we take it to the next level.
Yeah. You're gonna have a fleshy woman come through your keyhole and eat your baby. Like that's what's her beef?
But she comes through the keyhole as a ball of fire.
Wow.
So she converts herself from a person. She takes off her her skin, puts it in the gooby. She flies through the night as a ball of fire, comes through your keyhole into the baby, and then she sucks the baby. She transforms back to the woman. After she comes through the keyhole, sucks the baby, goes back into a ball of fire, comes back out through the keyhole, and boom, she's back in her skin.
What does she want?
So-
What does she want? Does she want like
The
youth?
blood of the baby,
You.
the baby's blood, newborn
Yeah.
baby.
Okay,
that's
so
how she's
she doesn't look too
maintained
good,
her
despite.
So
immortality.
she just looks like an old lady. She just wants to be immortal, right? She just looks like an average old lady in the market. So how do we
Wow.
stop her? There's
Oh,
several ways to stop her. You know,
Okay.
of course we have to stop her.
We have to stop her.
So one way, you find her gooby
Mhm.
and you pour salt on it.
Salt.
And she puts it, you put the skin back on. Of course, you can't put skin back on. The skin, it's salt. So that's one way.
Mhm.
Another way is you take a thing called asafoetida, but it's poison to her. She smells it and it's a poison to her.
High poison. That's what it is.
Oh, right. Another thing you can do to her, you have a mound of rice grains. Those are barriers for her to get to the baby. So the smell of the asafoetida, it's like a disinfectant, right?
Okay.
So when she smells that, that's bad for her.
Okay.
If she smells it. So if she's smart, she's going to leave because you've put barriers to stop her from getting to your baby. She's going to leave because she doesn't want the daylight to rise, the sun to rise and catch her in your house, right? Because she's got to come, suck the baby and escape. So you protect your baby with that and a mound of rice, because if it's a big mound, the larger the mound, the longer it takes for her to count it, because she now, in order to get past the barrier, she has to count the grains of rice.
Passive aggressive. Oh my God.
I told you, Guyanese people do everything dramatic. So
Just like
in order to get to the baby, right? She got to get past the mound of rice and the asafoetida, right?
Okay.
So let's say she ignored, she can survive the smell of the asafoetida. She now has to count the rice and get to the baby. So she has to count every grain of rice, but she has to hold it in her hand and she cannot drop a grain. If she drops one grain, she has to put it all back and count it and start all over. So of course it's time consuming, right? So when she sees that, she's supposed to leave and not come to this particular baby, go find another one,
Yeah,
right?
different
But
one.
right. So that's the whole thing. The third way you can get her is if it turns daylight and she's still in there with the baby, and you've got a manico broom, you can beat her and you get her
Wow.
that way. Beat her to death and get her that way. So that's full hike. There's even a poem about it.
Did you put rice in like Kim's crib? Did you actually do the rice thing?
I did not believe in that thing.
Okay.
However, just in case I was wrong,
Yes.
modern day parents, what we do two things to protect our children.
Mhm.
Open the Bible to
Mhm.
Psalm 23 and put it to the head of the baby, right? So we
Mhm.
put that there in the crib, and then we get a matchstick, and you scratch the match, and then you let it burn, and then you take the sulfur from the match, the brown ash from the sulfur from the match, and you put a cross on the baby's head.
Okay.
And this is all before the baby gets christened. Once it gets christened, the holy water will protect the baby, right? So you do that. And also you dress the baby in a blue nightgown, because that's another thing that would ward off the old hag. You dress the baby in blue. And then you put a string on their hand, piece of jewelry.
This is every night?
No, yeah, you put you leave the baby's bed. You leave the baby. You put them in the thing. These are superstitious people. That's why I never been. The only thing I did was put the Psalm and the Bible on my children's head. This was too much work.
I have a heavy OCD. I have serious OCD. I could not grow up here. I would never get to work. I would never get to work. I would be like, I'm sorry. I got to set up the rice. I got to get the ash. I got to get the string. I got to get the blue. And they're like, ma'am, you're fired. I'm like, I can't. I have OCD. Like, I can't be here. I can't be here.
I'm telling you, you can't raise a child in Guyana. Then you can't deal with this. Because
this is just one of the people. This is just one of the little myths that you don't have to deal with. This is one. I have a list, which we don't have time for all of them. But I'm just thinking, like, there's a list of creatures you got to watch out for here, and that's just 5 tasks. Okay, I mean, we're gonna have to do the famous one. If we have time, I'll do one more. But we got to talk about Jumbie, because that's the famous one.
Okay, Jumbie is it's a spirit. It's just a ghost. We call ghost Jumbie.
Oh, it's just a spirit.
So it could be any ghost. You say, oh, there's a Jumbie. You here in America, you scare children with monsters. Yeah. Oh, there's a monster under the bed.
Yeah.
We say the Jumbie gonna come and get you. Get in your bed. Go, you're a Jumbie. So Jumbie's a ghost.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Jumbie is actually like all across the Caribbean and Latin America.
Oh.
So in other countries, I had recently discovered this. I didn't know that there was Jumbie in other countries. And even in like, I would expect it in like Trinidad or Jamaica or something where it's like also Caribbean, similar history. But Jumbie stories are found in like Latin American countries.
So it's probably Spanish then. Right. Guyana is so close to it's South America is mostly Spanish country. It's only about 4 or 5 countries that are not non-Spanish speaking. So yeah, that would make sense.
What about the Masakura man? I think he haunts people in rivers more.
Yeah, the Masakura man. Yeah, the Masakura man. I don't know a whole lot about him. I've heard of him.
Oh, it's interesting. When I'm reading about it, it says a lot of people from coastal areas don't know of it, but the old belief said that the Masakura man actually originated out of slavery. Apparently, they were expert trackers of runaway slaves that were called the Caravan, who came out of Africa.
Oh, that makes sense with the rivers.
When the slaves ran away from the plantations, they used vast waterways of Guyana to escape deeper into the interior. The plantation owners would let loose the slave trackers to hunt them, and then the legend was born. So I think it was like, honestly, maybe to scare the slaves.
Like white dudes.
Yeah, just white. So, actually, it's a picture of a white guy with a gun. That's not even like, that's actually just scary.
Yeah,
that's the real Jumbie.
Okay, I do want to read off some of the creepy myths. So in the last episode and in this episode, Kim has mentioned Jumbie. She mentioned it in the last episode when she was in West Virginia and got the fuck out of there because of Jumbie, actually. So let's break it down. I'm reading this quote from GuyaneseOnline.wordpress.com for if any of y'all want to learn more about these creepy myths and ghosts, I will leave them in the show notes. So Jumbie is the ultimate mythological spirit or demon in the folklores of Guyana. All races of Guyana tend to believe in some form of manner of this frightful spirit, despite their strong beliefs in Christianity and other religions. It is the beliefs that people who are evil in the life are destined to become a Jumbie in death, to haunt the nights in the minds of the believers. One favorite expression when Guyanese people say goodnight is, "Don't let Jumbie hold you." Jumbie is always on the minds of many Guyanese walking home at night. Walking past the cemetery can be especially frightening. There's a story of an old Dutch slave owner. His story still is told after 100 years after his death. Stories were told that the clip-clop sounds of the hooves of the white horse, which old Kloot once owned, could be heard as Kloot made his way home from his plantation. And some people had even seen this old Dutchman as he rode into the twilight of the evening. Some older relatives have also felt the haunt of many slaves that were buried there. So it seems like Jumbie is one if you were a bad guy, like a slave owner, and you become a ghost. Then there is the moon gazer. This moonlight phenomenon is so tall that his head is at the level of tall coconut trees. His concern is gazing unwavering at the moon. If disturbed, the moon gazer has the ability to suck your brains out. You're warned as a child to leave the spirit alone should you unfortunately encounter it. There is another spirit called the Bako. He is a tiny little man that fits in a bottle covered by a cork. This little devil may be green or have a beard. He is kept by the evil dwellers to use when necessary to hurt or harm. But the Bako is expensive to keep. They say he requires gallons of milk and bananas as his only dietary demands. It is reported that he speaks in various tongues and may be helpful when he chooses. Many old wine bottles and other relics of significant historical value are immediately discarded or thrown into the river in fear of the Baku might be attached to it. This Baku prefers to dwell at night and will stone your rooftop if annoyed. How does he do that? He's so tiny. Priceless historical facts may lay buried or lost in the many river bottoms due to everyone being scared of him. Now this next one is more towards the jungle of Guyana, and this is their haunting. It's called the Kaini Ama. He's a bush devil that's very real to many Guyanese, but primarily in the interior location today. The belief and practice of the Kainama is part of their contribution of the Amerindians to the Guyanese culture. This person who writes the story says, when I was a child visiting the river, I was told never to venture too far from home because a Kanaima would eat me. It supposedly was a cannibal-like bush devil that haunted the deep jungle, stalking prey. This belief still survives mainly in the river areas and deep in Guyana's highlands. One quote says that one Indian was followed by the Kainama and that for 2 years, and the Kainama killed him in front of a government building in Georgetown. What? And that the sheriff in the 1870s saw many cases of the Kainama killing people, but it eventually became a folklore. And those are just some of Guyana's creepy ghosts and myths.
I have one more thing. I don't know if you have it on your list. Baku. I think it's the Indian version of a ghost. They say, the legend says it's a little man. Think leprechaun.
Okay.
Because leprechaun is a little man in the Irish, right? But he's a good luck charm. But Baku is negative. He's a bad guy. You don't want Baku to come and get you. So there's all the things that you scare people, scare children. So Baku would be like a Jumbie.
A Jumbie.
Right? So they used to tell you, don't be caught out late at night because the Baku is going to get you. You know, all these different types of things.
But which one were you actually scared of? Like, which one were you actually scared of? None?
None. I believe in that nonsense, in my opinion. But as a little child, I was scared of ghosts. So I would be more afraid of Jumbo. Baku, I was like, because that's an Indian thing. I said, oh, it's only going to come after Indians.
Yeah, like, not me.
Which unfortunately it turns out we try not to use the term anymore, even though they think, but we call them coolie. So the British call them coolie because they were indentured laborers, not servants. They were indentured servants. They were laborers. They were paid. And the British called them the Indians coolie, and they called the Australians that went and worked on the sugar plantations in Australia. They were white, but they were called coolies also. But the term was really used to mean those laborers.
I did not know that was a racist term my whole life.
Oh, have you been saying
Nobody told me that this was racist.
Yeah,
I'm calling these people coolie.
Oh,
you know,
this is a slur. I'm like calling people.
Yeah,
this is a slur. I just discovered that this was like a racial slur like a few months ago.
But it's only in modern times it's been now regarded as a
I met this other Guyanese girl. I met this other guy. She's half Guyanese, and I think her mom's Indian. She's half Guyanese. And I said, like, we're talking about roti or whatever. I said, I got to learn to make roti for my auntie. She makes roti like a real coolie girl. And the girl, she just got the biggest smile on her face. I'm the only other Guyanese person she's ever met living in it. And she got a huge smile on her face. She was like, oh, you just warmed my heart. I never heard somebody say coolie outside of my family. So they refer to themselves that way. So that's not like well, I didn't know. I had no idea that this was had a racist origin, that they're trying to. I think there's like a movement now to try to like stop saying it or whatever, like, just like kind of get it out of the vocabulary.
Yeah.
I did not know that this was like not nice.
And you're like, how many times have I said that?
To this girl's face, like not even realizing. I was like, well, apparently she's heard it too. So I guess that's what her mom says.
Right.
That just goes to show you that they're really like racism isn't even really like a thing like that there, because it's not even the way that people. You'll find that in like Latin America too. Like Latinos will refer to themselves in certain like using these terms that in America, like these are not terms that you use to refer to a person. Like these are derogatory. But like that's just how we talk about people.
Right.
Yeah.
Because the thing about it is, growing up, we used the term. We said coolie, coolie boy, coolie this, but we did not mean it in a derogatory way. So the N word, we grew up using it. It was not derogatory either in Guyana, but coming to America, you have to become more aware of it and just not use it. And as things get modern and modern times, you begin to realize the history of the word. It was actually a derogatory term by the British. The British used that term. We did not know the history, but once we learned the history of the word, we now stop using it. We try to stop using it. But you go to Guyana, they use it like it's nothing.
Yeah. But that just shows the power of words. It's about the intention of it.
It's the context.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like you're taking the power back, honestly, by being like, yeah, we're coolie, whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
Especially when you're living in like a multicultural society and, dealing with other people, like a way to like classify yourself.
Exactly.
It's just American really like poison so much stuff. So much stuff.
We sour it up.
I never really thought of that as like a derogatory thing. I mean, maybe I might have had an idea that it could have come from a place, but that's just not the way that it was used.
Yeah.
My ride is here.
Oh,
to take me to the airport.
Perfect.
I'm so way too like I'm leaving.
But I hope you have gotten a lot of information.
I did.
Wonderful. Anything else? What did we not cover?
I think I had like 3 more.
Let me hear
them. I'm just curious. We don't have to like get into it.
One of them was I think we went Obe. We did Obe. Oh, the moon gazer. Obia.
So Obia is like voodoo.
Oh, it's voodoo.
It's like voodoo. You're familiar with voodoo? So Obia is like voodoo. It's our version of voodoo. Yeah.
And now that I'm like looking at the Massacre man, I'm like, yo, that's just a old like white.
That made me laugh. That was hilarious. Like to me, that's
Massacre man.
I don't know why I thought this was like a ghost, but now that I'm looking at him, like
but it makes sense that he was a slave hunter.
Yeah, he's the devil.
Sense. And it made the sense that they gave him that name, Massacre Man, because I
find it interesting that he's like in a wheelchair.
I don't know
what the significance of that is.
Like no matter what, even if he's crippled, he's still going to do it.
Exactly.
Which is even
that's
even crazier.
So funny. Like they literally made a legend, like mythical creature
based off of
just like a slave catcher. Like
that's way scarier. That is way scarier than a ghost.
It is. That's the scariest thing that I can think of.
That's the scare people. Isn't that something?
Wow.
That's terrifying. Well, you have a beautiful flight, and then
thank you.
I would love to see pictures once you get there. I would love for you to text us some pictures.
Of course, I'll take some pictures and send. Yes. Okay.
And this has like been such a pleasure. You're just such a lovely person and your energy, and I'm glad I got to like record with you in general.
Thank you so much. You're so sweet. But good luck with it. So you've got now 9 countries and 100 and something to go.
I'm slowly getting there. I'm slowly plugging along. It's going to take my whole life, low-key, but it's fine. We're doing it.
It's positive what you're trying to do. I love what you're doing. So this is great. Girls, I'm going to run now.
Okay.
Bye, Mom. Have a good flight.
Bye, Kim. All right, later. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh my God. I loved this episode. I loved recording it. I love editing it. I love showing it to y'all. I just love Kim's mom. Like, she's such a vibe. I think my favorite thing I learned from this episode was like her sayings and just hearing her accent. I feel like hearing her really finally put the pieces together of what Guyana feels like and what the vibe is. And the next step is we got to get invited to a Guyanese party. Like, I want to eat the food. I want to eat the roti. I want to dance the dance. I want to joke the jokes. I want to hear about the creepy ghost stories. Like, I don't know. I feel like I would just get along in a Guyanese party. So, Kim's mom, if you're listening, I would love to come. But yeah, coming up with Guyana, the next episode we'll be doing about Guyana will be about the animals in the jungle of Guyana. And we'll having my best friend Kyle come on. If you know Kyle, he's a fan favorite and he's like Mr. Animal Planet. And we're going to talk about all the fucking cool and interesting and crazy animals that live in Guyanese jungles. And after that, we are ending the season with the very horrifying story of the Jonestown massacres. And you're like, that sounds familiar. Yes, it's awful. It's horrifying. And it happened in Guyana, of all places. So that's why I'm leaving it as the last episode, because I don't want people to just think of Guyana and just think of Jonestown. I wanted you to hear, Kim's mom and like hear about and Kim's culture. And also, we're going to hear about Kyle's research on all the animals and like really get a sense of Guyana. But we can't ignore the fact that a huge mass suicide happened in Guyana. And it was Jonestown, and it's horrifying. But we have my cousin Emma and my cousin Julia on that episode to lighten that a little bit up. And yeah, so that's what you have to look forward to for Guyana. And if there's any Guyanese people, please reach out to me. I would love to share more about your country. You can always follow me on Instagram at culturecultshow. I will have pictures of everything we've talked about, whether it would be like the waterfalls or some of these creepy freaking ghosts. I'll post them. You can always reach out and DM me there. Or you can email me, which is my email is culturecultshow@gmail.com. If you're Guyanese and you feel like I missed something about your country, please hit me up. I would love to hear more about your country and your culture. And for now, let's end on some Guyanese music. And if you want to follow the podcast playlist, because that's fun, that will also be in the show notes. Cheers and enjoy.
Do it. Oh, do it. Oh, do it. Do it. Oh, do it. Looking through the morning dew, and smoking mountains, nothing new. Lead me to the mountain tower, and we'll work until it's time to stop. Oh, baby, you're mine, you're walking on sunshine. And I got to tell you that you're doing fine, walking on sunshine. Oh, I got to tell you that you're doing fine, walking on sunshine. Yeah. Oh, baby. Oh, baby. Yeah. Oh, baby. Oh, darling. Oh, living isn't everything, but you know the feeling love can bring. I said that when you're floating through your cloud, oh, baby, don't you shout too loud, oh, darling. I said, girl, you're mine, oh, walking on sunshine. And I got to tell you that you're doing fine, walking on sunshine. Oh, I got to tell you that you're doing fine, walking on sunshine. Oh, darling. You're mine, you're walking on sunshine. And I got to tell you that you're doing fine, walking on sunshine. Song.